This video was brought to you by Brilliant. Go to brilliant.org/polyphonic for a 30-day free trial. The first 200 people to click on that link will also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. More on that after the video. In the early decades of popular music, most performers didn't write their songs. Dating back to Tin Pan Alley, songwriters would churn out standards that would then be performed by any number of artists. By the 1950s, music industry professionals had created a world of singers who were interchangeable by design. But then as the decade turned, things began to shift. A new generation of performers emerged out of New York's Greenwich Village folk scene. Inspired by the likes of Hank Williams and Woody Guthrie, these performers wrote personal songs about their own experiences and political opinions. Before long, singer-songwriters were taking over the music industry, fast replacing songwriting teams and studio stars. Caught between these two worlds was Carole King. A musical prodigy from a young age, Carole King was brought up in the Brule building system, writing songs for girl groups like the Chiffons and teen idols like the Monkees. And she was damn good at it. She penned a number of chart toppers like Bobby V's Take Good Care of My Baby or the Monkees' Pleasant Valley Sunday. Most of these songs were written alongside her then husband Gerry Goffin. But through the 60s, their relationship and songwriting partnership started to fall apart. In 1968, Goffin and King divorced. King found herself alone in a world that was changing at a lightning pace, so she packed her bags up and headed to California. King landed in one of the most vibrant music scenes of the era, in a Los Angeles neighborhood called Laurel Canyon. Populated by the likes of Joni Mitchell, Neil Young, and James Taylor, the Laurel Canyon scene was defined by singular singer-songwriters. It was in this scene that Carole King began to find her own voice and evolve her songwriting process. In 1970, she released her first solo album, Writer. Populated by songs that she'd written with Goffin, Writer didn't make much of an impact on the industry. But King kept doing the thing that she did best, writing songs. And a year later, Carole King would release an album that caught on like few albums ever do. That album was called Tapestry. Tapestry spoke to the experiences of the women of King's generation. It combined the professional Brill-building songwriting with the more open approach of the singer-songwriter generation, and it became one of the most important albums of the entire decade. Let's take a closer look. Tapestry was a smash success immediately upon release. It rocketed to the top of Billboard's album charts and stayed there for 15 consecutive weeks. Tapestry's full run in the top 200 would last an astounding 313 weeks. The album cleaned up at the Grammys and made Carole King the first solo female act ever to win Grammy for Record of the Year and Song of the Year. Eventually, Tapestry would go on to earn a diamond certification in the United States. A big part of this success is Carole King's talent at writing melodic and lyrical hooks. The Brill-building approach that launched her career is evident from the album's opening moments, as it kicks into gear with a groovy piano line and an earworm of a chorus on I Feel the Earth Move.
I feel the earth move under my feet.
Because she'd spent her career writing for others, King had learned to center the song first, removing any desire for ego and flair, and instead focusing on creating a good groove and a good story. But the Laurel Canyon scene was full of enormous egos and full of songwriters who were putting all of themselves into their music. One of the most profound of these songwriters was Joni Mitchell, who was working on her seminal album Blue at the same time that King was making the album that would become Tapestry. In fact, while recording Tapestry, King would often sneak into Mitchell's adjacent studio room to record while Mitchell was out, because that room had a better sounding piano. Blue is one of the most radically confessional albums ever made. It's an album full of Mitchell speaking openly about her public relationships, her breakups, her insecurities, and her heartbreak. This sort of confessionality bled into the music of Carole King. As a woman who had been married at just 17 and swept up into a more conservative model of femininity, the 70s marked radical change for King. The emotional toll of this change comes through in the album's second song, So Far Away.
So far away, doesn't anybody stay in one place anymore?
So Far Away is one of the great ballads ever written. It's a beautiful, slow-moving piece about dreaming of a missed loved one. King keeps the subject of her song deliberately ambiguous. It could be a friend, a lover, a family member.
I reached for you and there you stood. Holding you again could only do me good.
But no matter what, it's easy to see King's real life in it, seeing as she wrote the song with an entire continent between her and her hometown. So Far Away sets the tone for most of the album, striking piano arrangements augmented by subtle pieces of instrumentation. It's loaded with these sorts of warm, slow-moving pieces. You can hear this in songs like Home Again or the bluesy Way Over Yonder, which sings lyrics of an optimistic future atop a woeful melody.
Then trouble's gonna lose me. Worry, leave me behind.
The highlight of Tapestry might be It's Too Late, a truly singular breakup song that King wrote alongside Tony Stern.
Stayed in bed all morning just to pass the time. There's something wrong here, there can be no denying. One of us is changing, or maybe we've just stopped trying.
It's Too Late is not a dramatic piece of heartbreak. It's not a tragic ballad of star-crossed lovers. It's a grounded piece of music, telling the story of a relationship that has worn on too long. A relationship where irreconcilable differences have come to head, not in passion or in anger, but in solemn resignation.
There'll be good times again for me and you, but we just can't stay together, don't you feel it too? Still, I'm glad for what we had and how I once loved you.
Crucially, this is written from the perspective of a woman. King and Stern put voice to feelings that an entire generation of women were having in the early 70s. These women were rushed into poor marriages by the conservative culture that dominated at the time. They spent years as unhappy housewives before the sexual revolution hit in the late 60s. This second wave of feminism saw women breaking free from prescribed roles, leaving incompatible relationships, and setting out to find themselves. It's Too Late is a representation of this movement.
But it's too late, baby, now it's too late. Though we really did try to make it. Something inside has died and I can't hide and I just can't fake it. Oh,
Where Joni Mitchell's Blue was full of existential heartbreak, Tapestry is an album full of quiet resilience and defiant self-definition. In Beautiful, King sings a song of uplifting self-love, reminding her listeners that they're capable of being their own person.
you're better, you're gonna find, yes you will, that you're beautiful. You're beautiful. You're beautiful as you feel.
This attitude of feminist self-reliance and authenticity comes through in the album cover. Tapestry doesn't feature fancy makeup and elaborate outfits. There's no coiffured updo or dramatic set piece like the album covers of the 60s. Instead, it's a cozy photo of King in comfortable clothes, looking like she's just hanging out at home. Like the album itself, it's an understated piece of art that spreads a powerful message. It's okay for women to be themselves and to thrive on their own. King isn't portrayed as a deified artist on a podium. She's portrayed as your friend, your sister, yourself. Her singing doesn't have the power or control of some of the musicians who she's written for, but it has a raw intimacy that can't be matched. King ends the album with one of her finest songs, a piece she'd written with Goffin back before they divorced. You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman was a hit for Aretha Franklin. That version is a marvelous piece of music and a perfect vehicle for Franklin's legendary, powerful voice. But on Tapestry, King reclaims the song for herself. When she sings it, it's a statement that despite all of the breakup and heartbreak, despite all of the confusion and change, King still does believe in a true, profound love.
And when I knew I'd have to face another day, Lord, it made me feel so tired.
The music lilts and grows in a beautiful sway, carried by a marvelous piano performance. It's a perfect ending to the album, a look back at where King has come from, and a statement about what she's capable of in the future.
'Cause you make me feel, you make me feel, you make me feel like a natural woman.
Tapestry's combination of polished Brule building experience and raw confessional songwriting was unlike anything the world had seen before. Its soft rock instrumental palette soothed the soul, and its poetic lyricism was a balm for any broken heart. Tapestry became the soundtrack to an entire generation of women coming into their own. It lifted Carole King to heights of fame she'd never imagined, and created the soft rock sound palette that would come to define much of the 70s. While it had enormous commercial success in its day, I think the legacy of Tapestry has been somewhat forgotten in the modern era. And that's a shame, because as far as I'm concerned, Carole King's Tapestry is one of the single greatest albums ever recorded.
You make me feel like a natural woman. You know you make me feel. You make me feel.
Basically, my entire existence, from my work to my play to a lot of my social life, happens on machines. And recently it's occurred to me that I don't even really know how any of these machines governing my life work. That's why I've decided to check out Brilliant's class, How Technology Works. Brilliant is a really incredible learning platform that provides a one-of-a-kind experience teaching STEM topics through dynamic, interactive lessons. As someone passionate about design, I love the feel of Brilliant's lessons. They're intuitive and easy to work with, they're absolutely beautiful, and they can be done in short sessions, so they're perfect for busy people. If you've ever wanted to learn more about science, math, or really any STEM topic, but felt like you didn't have the time, Brilliant is for you. If you want to check it out, you can get started today at no cost to yourself. The first 200 people to go to brilliant.org/polyphonic will get a 30-day trial of Brilliant absolutely free, as well as 20% off an annual premium subscription. Following that link is a great way to support my channel, and it's also a great way to advance your learning goals and better yourself as a person. So check it out. And hey, you know what I'm going to say here? Thanks for watching. You're the best.